Hello, this is PapaKenn, and today I'm going to be reading the story of the Chinese Zodiac. This is being taken from a few different versions of this story, so it may be different from something that you've read before, but I hope you enjoy it all the same. Let's begin. The Chinese New Year, the story of the Great Race. Long ago in China, the Jade Emperor thought he needed to find a way of keeping track of each year, so he decided to make a zodiac. He thought he should name every year after a different animal. But there were so many animals, the Jade Emperor could not decide which one should be first. So he decided to have a swimming race to help him choose. The Emperor invited 13 animals down to the river to take part. He needed to choose 12 animals for his zodiac. There was the tiger, the rat, the snake, the rabbit, the monkey, the dog, the rooster, the goat, the ox, the cat, the boar or the pig, the horse, and finally, the dragon. The great race loomed just on the horizon, and the cat and the rat were the best of friends. Together, the two of them hatched a plan to ride the ox across the river together. They knew the large and hardy ox was accustomed to crossing rivers and would likely finish first. At the start of the race, the two animals slipped atop the ox. Being rather thick-headed, the ox was oblivious to the two animals atop him. But as the cat and the rat rode atop the ox, the rat jolted abruptly forward. The sudden force sent the cat flying off the ox and into the river. The cat let out a piercing directed at the rat, but by then it was too late, and the ox with the rat atop was already too far ahead of the cat. So that is why to this day, cats still hold grudges against the rats. The ox lumbered toward the finish line. The ox was going to come first, when suddenly the rat leapt from the ox's back and crossed the finish line first. The ox crossed the finish line a moment later. However, the ox was too composed a sort to make a big fuss about this. Suddenly, water splashed forth from the river. The tiger had burst out from beneath the water, his coat sopping wet. The water had weighed the proud tiger down, but the well-muscled tiger pushed forth in spite of this burden, hind legs rippling with tense firmness. His huge paw prints bore down on the damp, muddy shore, and with one final fierce stride, the tiger claimed the third spot in the zodiac. The Jade Emperor watched as the trio of rat, ox, and tiger crossed the finish line. He applauded them and decreed that they would be the first three animals of the zodiac. The rabbit stood perched upon a rock in the river. He was only lagging slightly behind the tiger. The river water lapped up at his paws. The rabbit let out soft huffs and heaves. He had been trying desperately to keep up with the tiger. Despite the rabbit's small stature, he had kept pace, leaping from one rock to another so he could quickly cross the river. A long trail of rocks jutted up from the riverbed. As worry overtook the rabbit hastened his motions, pulling back hurriedly on his strong hind legs. The rabbit feared that if he did not pick up his pace, another animal might seize the fourth spot from him. Suddenly, the rabbit slipped, tumbling back first into the murky waters of the river. The rabbit's thoughts began to race. Would he even be able to finish in time? A moment later, the rabbit's eyes widened. A log was floating slowly by. Nearly leaping up from the river, the rabbit sped into a wild paddle, water flying up around him. He pressed both paws into the log, clinging on as tightly as he could muster. Alas, the log was barely moving, bobbing complacently in the water. A sudden gust stirred thickly in the air, sending the log hurtling down the river. The rabbit's heart throbbed in slow motion as the log drifted toward the shore where the finish line was. The rabbit's pulse gradually slowed, seemingly one beat at a time, as he neared the shore, a deep-seated feeling of relief overtaking him. The rabbit peered backwards as he floated closer to shore. No other animals were in sight. The rabbit hopped right across the finish line. The rabbit did not stop as he passed the Jade Emperor. The Emperor was smiling at the rabbit with a generous grin. The rabbit passed rice paddies as he made his way toward the forest. Reaching a shaded and secluded thicket, the rabbit collapsed into a tiny heap of white fur. A mix of relief and exhilaration had seeped through his being, replacing the disappointment he had felt about only getting 4th place. Over the finish line, the dragon soared swiftly, moving in a majestic aerial stride as it shimmied through the clouds, his long tail streaming and lashing about the placid sky, wind racing past him. As the dragon made his rapid descent, the clouds seemed to part. The Jade Emperor stood awaiting the great creature. Why has the dragon not come in first place, he wondered. When the Jade Emperor addressed the dragon, he began to explain the circumstances that had befallen him. Exalted Jade Emperor, on my way I saw several villagers that were in trouble. A fire had ignited amongst their crops, and they had been surrounded in a circle of blaze. I knew that my spot in the zodiac was on the line, but I could not stand by and watch. To put out the flames, I used my breath to extinguish the blaze, snuffing it out like a flickering candle. I had to be careful though. I did not want to also sweep the villagers up in this gale of my own creation. I also saw a tiny rabbit in the river clinging to a log, so I used my breath to push it to shore. The Jade Emperor smiled again. He was well acquainted with the dragon's nature. He was not disappointed in him. As the dragon and the Jade Emperor spoke, the horse was in the midst of galloping across the river, splashing up water as her hooves moved like beating pistons through the ankle-deep water, beads of mist silhouetting her strong equestrian form. The horse burst from the river. Only a few strides separated her from the finish line. Something slithered through the grass. From the grass, the snake surged out, approaching from behind the horse's hooves. Overtaken by shock, the horse recoiled, leaping backwards. A high neigh exited the horse's mouth, hooves thrown up toward the sky. With a quick slither, the snake crossed the finish line. The Jade Emperor watched the snake move past the finish line, still smiling. He did not judge the snake. The snake had merely been clever. The horse lowered her long face, a tinge of shame lingering in her dark beady eyes as she stepped slowly across the finish line. Fear had cost her the 6th spot. Her legs, which moment ago had carried her in an untamed gallop, were now locked in slow, shaky steps, which barely left imprints upon the dirt. Back in the river, the monkey, the rooster, and the goat all floated atop a raft, which the rooster had found resting by the opposite shore, unclaimed by anyone. Together, the 3 of them worked furiously, using lengthy branches as makeshift paddles. The sticks would often get caught in tangles of unwieldy underwater weeds, which weaved up from the riverbed, but the 3 of them did not stop paddling, severing the leafy binds with forceful branch strokes. When the rooster, the monkey, and the goat reached the river's shore, they let the goat cross first, claiming 8th place. The goat had been so comforting and formed such harmonious bonds with them that the others felt it was only right to let the goat claim 8th place. If they had not helped foster these bonds, they may not have all made it to the finish line. The monkey claimed the 9th place, and the rooster took 10th place. Coat sopping wet, the dog scrambled across the finish line next, panting as he did so, canine tongue flapping open from his mouth. The dog was an adept swimmer, but because he had not bathed for some time, he had overindulged in the river, frolicking about without a care in the water. The sun set high in the sky today and had heated the water, making it just wonderful to bathe in. And thus, the dog claimed 11th place in the race. By the finish line stood the Jade Emperor. 11 animals had already crossed. There was only 1 spot remaining in the zodiac now. What animal will conclude the race, the Jade Emperor wondered. Over the horizon, a loud, exhausted sounded. The pig waddled toward the finish line, pink skin caked in dense layers of dirt, sniffling snout pasted brown with mud. Yet, the pig moved at a surprisingly swift pace, little feet locked in a tiny, cyclical gallop. The Jade Emperor gave the pig a sharp glance as he crossed the finish line. How has one such as you, who possesses such surprising speed, fallen so far behind? He asked. The pig snorted as he readied himself to speak. Sorry, exalted Jade Emperor. I was hungry and couldn't resist stopping to gobble something up. I felt sleepy after eating and couldn't help myself. The Jade Emperor smiled again as he peered down at the dirt covering the pig. The race had concluded. The pig collapsed onto his side, lapsing back into sleep. Snorts that sounded like little snores sounded from the pig's rotund, heaving form. The 12 animals of the zodiac had been decided, and so concluded the great race. Everyone, thank you very much for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed the story of the Chinese Zodiac, and if you have other versions that you enjoy, please do share them with me, be it in the YouTube comments or elsewhere. I very much look forward to hearing them. Until next time, everyone, I am PapaKenn. Good night.